Coming up in this week's episode, the process to consider even whether or not to be in contact or not is so painful and grief-stricken and filled with that fear and obligation and guilt, and you're trying to undo all the conditioning and are so scared at the same time, which is why it's not up to me, it's not up to your husband, it's not up to anybody else whether or not you go no contact, right? That's entirely your choice, and none of us get to decide that for you or judge you for it either way. Welcome to The Liberation Effect with me, your host, Helen Villas. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Liberation Effect. Today I'm joined by Liz, who has come to speak to me after writing in because she's in that really difficult place of having realised and recognised the behaviour, but is still in low contact with her parents, mum in particular, and really struggling to navigate that dynamic with that kind of need for pretense and how that's betraying herself. But on top of that is really not knowing how to navigate it with her own children who are varying in ages. And yeah, here we are to try and get some maybe insight and some way forward through this situation. Liz, is that a good enough summary for why you're here?
Yeah, thank you. I think that just knowing a way, starting to know a way forward has been very helpful.
Okay.
Because at the moment I just feel stuck.
Okay. So when you say having a way forward, what is it that you would like to leave here with today, do you think?
A certain amount it's validation, but it's how to have that level of low contact with somebody that actually you struggle with that relationship, but they don't know that you struggle with that relationship.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Does it feel like you're keeping a secret from them?
But it's just like a secret that I know I've tried to talk about before, and it's been pointless because I've been told off, basically.
Right. So leaving here with an idea of how to move forward and anything else?
I think it's just the amount of time and space it takes in my brain. And that feels really, I don't want to say unnecessary because it's necessary to go through it, but like I've got a really busy life.
Right.
And it's almost like I know that it's always comparable to grief in a way, but like, it's like I haven't got time to start over in my head. I want to move on.
I know exactly that feeling of like, oh my God, I do not have time to go through this stuff right now. Like I haven't got time for, I used to make a joke, I haven't got time for a mentee bee. You know, I need to be able to be focused and get on with my life and run my life. And yet it still sits there, right? And it still sits there gnawing away at you. And there's something very ironic, isn't there, about I don't have time to feel this, and yet I'm feeling it all the time because I'm ignoring it, right?
Yeah. And it's always in my dreams, like, and so every morning, like, I wake up and I was like, I'm exhausted. I feel like still interventional because I have nightmares all the time about the same stuff. But I'm like, I need to stop seeing because it's getting really annoying.
When you say nightmares about the same stuff, do you mind telling me what the dreams are about?
Really, sometimes quite mundane. So, like, it's not hard to unpick. It's really like where I grew up, tends to be the setting. Yeah, my mum and dad are usually pregnant in some way, and me and the kids, and I've usually messed up in some way. It's never anything major, but the thought of going through all that is just really exhausting. And yeah, it's just always on my mind. And even if I've not thought about it before bed, I will dream about it.
So the dreams are, you said there's nothing surprising, and then you quite quickly, what's happening in those dreams?
So I might have forgotten. So things like my oldest child started secondary school last week. So it might be that I've forgotten to get her ready, do any of the school prep. But my mum and dad, it's at my mum and dad's house. It's always at my mum and dad's house, not where we live. And so they're always in the background. I'm very conscious that the message from my dad is always that, isn't your mum amazing?
Right.
And especially, isn't your mum an amazing mother? Never overtly said, but you're not going to be the mother she was, type thing. So like when my kids did go to their grandparents, maybe, I mean, we haven't been for probably 3 years now, but they don't like it when I cook for my kids at their house because my mum gets quite offended that my kids will eat the food I make.
What? She gets
And my
offended
dad,
that they...
yeah. And then she'll come out with like 2 homemade cakes and be like, look what Grandma's made. And then my dad will come in, oh, isn't she amazing? And then my dad will always call her mum to the kids.
Oh.
Yeah.
To your children?
Yeah. My kids say nothing to that, but like...
That's
and
gross.
actually, the last time we ate there, my children left the table, even the younger ones, because they're like, oh, yeah, can't bear this.
Wow. I just want to really notice that's so gross that your father is calling your mother mum to your children and not gran.
Yeah, I think
you know.
there's something very, and this is something that again I haven't unpicked because, to be honest, I'm like, I don't know whether I want to. I don't know. I don't know whether I want to go down any rabbit holes. But my dad, over the last couple of months, I've realised he is very, very overtly narcissistic, and my mum is much more covertly. But I've never. I feel bad to say this because, like, I've not ever had a relationship with my dad in terms of like, I don't feel cross about that because I've never had it. And whereas the relationship I've had with my mum had always previously been very, very close, which is why it hurt more.
Okay.
That has gone in my head. And to the point where I can't even hug my dad. Like when he goes to say, comes to visit us, I don't want to, I can't do it. I'm like...
You don't want to touch him. It sounds like you're repulsed by him.
Yeah.
What happened there when I said that? There was something...
Yeah, I am. And he was always the person that you shouldn't upset or bother. And very, very, very clever. I've got a son who's got autism and ADHD. And so my mum would always say, oh, your dad, he'd have been diagnosed with autism, wouldn't he? If he'd have been grown up now. And he might well have done, but my son is like a ray of sunshine. And he has been since birth. Mm-hmm. And he's been through a lot. Like part of us moving in the last 3 years was to do with this treatment at his last school, which was horrific. And he's in a much better place now. But when my son has empathy for people, he is the kindest and most considerate person I know. Mm-hmm. Like, and I love my daughters a bit, obviously, but if I've got something going on, he'll notice it within 20 seconds of even into a room. If I'm having a haircut, he's the one who'll say, nice haircut. Like, he's just considerate. And my dad is not that. And that irritates me because I'm like, they're not the same.
Because
at all.
When she's saying your dad would be diagnosed with autism, she's saying they're just the same people.
No, I was just going to say, like, her solution to anything with my son is like having a meltdown, like, oh, he'll play chess with your dad. And like, or your dad will sit and listen to him because my son really likes to like give you a back history of like Nintendo type thing. And so my dad will just sit and listen, but he's not listening. He's falling asleep. And it's just because my dad doesn't want to get up and do anything with my grandchildren.
Right.
He's quite happy to just run up and have a cup of tea and go to sleep. But because my son thinks he's being listened to, he thinks that granddad's awesome. And he knows, I've said stuff in conversations to my son before about like what grandma and granddad used to be like with regards to a few things when I was growing up. But it's like, because he will sit there and like I say, it's not like he's bigger than time and he's not, he's just sitting there.
Okay, so dad is quite overt and entitled, and there's also an ownership of your children as a general whole, as in calling your mother mum to them. But then on top of that, we've got dad's also potentially autistic, and therefore your son and him are the same. And there's also an ownership of your son in that too, that he in his diagnosis isn't unique, but then the comparison of the two characters being so flawed. But it also shows how little they see your son, because if they did, they wouldn't be saying that they're the same, right?
Yeah.
This is actually a really important point, because I get asked this all the time about autism and NPD, and I've done a few videos about it recently. But the thing of whether or not NPD and autism are the same, and it irritates me intensely as a concept, because no, they're completely different. Just what you described there, that kind of attunement, the empathy, those things do exist in autism. People have this misconception about empathy and autism all the time, and it's just so flawed and false. What people struggle with, autistic people, not always as well, but often will struggle with, is cognitive empathy, like predicting how someone might feel or behave that they don't know. If they do know them, they will be able to track back through what they've known before and apply it to this situation, right? But what they also have, there's another type of empathy. It's either called relative or affective. I can't remember, there's other names for it, compassionate even, which is the idea that they feel, someone would feel what you're feeling. So they see you feeling sad, they feel sad. You know, there's an attunement to your emotion, which is why he notices so much. But also the pattern recognition, because if your pattern changes, he'll know something's different, and then he'll be kind of asking himself, well, what does this pattern indicate? Oh, well, last time I heard this pattern, it was this thing, right? Autism and NPD obviously can coexist in one person, but they are not the same thing at all. There's an entire module about this on my autism course that's on my website at the moment, because it's so frustrating that they get compared. But now I'll get down off my little soapbox and I will come back and look at, okay, so you are seeing this behavior. You said in your email that I've never gone to no contact because I feel that would mean having to tell her why. And it's interesting because actually in your email, you didn't mention your dad at all, which is pretty representative of what you've just spoken about.
I think it's only been something that I've realised recently.
Right, yeah, because you applied in May, so it's quite, yeah, and we're now August. So
yeah, I think it's a recent thought that like I say, whilst he accepts me, I'm not emotionally attached to him.
Okay.
So it doesn't, like, you know, when I had to ring my mum, I feel very anxious, and I know that I need to have my husband around as well, because I don't like speaking to someone by myself.
Why is that?
It's almost like having someone who you know is there for you in the room. because she is rude to me in front of him. It's not that it stops her. But
what protection does he offer?
he'll just, you know, if he was with me, just put an arm around me, or we just, you know, or if they were in the room, he'd maybe just raise his eyebrows or something like that. But it's just to know that I think it's that feeling that maybe in the past I thought, I mean, it's just that I'm sad that I think that my mum's being horrible to me. Like, why? And I guess it's validation. He's not a confrontational person, as I am not either. So it would never be the case that he would step in and be like, no, that's not cool. I mean, that probably would be a level, but it's not happened. But yeah, she has to behave herself to a certain amount, though, especially if they're present physically in the room. Like,
okay, so if he's there, she's not as cruel.
yeah, probably. I mean, she doesn't know he's there when she's speaking to the phone, so.
Okay, but he will offer you validation in the, like, he'll hear something and he'll be like, well, not okay, and then and that kind of lets you know that you're okay to feel what you're feeling in response to what's happening. So it stops you self-gaslighting. Makes sense. Okay. Because do you trust your perception of the situation?
I do now, but it's taken a long time to get there, because what my pattern has always been is think, right, no, that's not okay, I've had enough. And then she love bombs with her thing stuff. And it'll be through like so many gifts that are alive at the house, that sort of thing.
Right.
So many letters, money. And I'll think, okay, just don't be in a weird, like, and then I'll just play happy families for a bit. And then it would just be like nothing ever changes. And I've not done that in the last 18 months or so. And I think that the fact that we live geographically so far away from each other definitely helps that. And because I am really busy as well, so I haven't got lots of time to be ringing her anyway. But I now don't know, because I'm in this situation now where when they do speak on the phone, I don't know if I am coming across as being completely casual and everything's fine. That's what I'm trying to give away. But I'm giving her information that she wants to have about the kids. And I know that that's just the tick box of it. But it doesn't stick with me. I think it's like I come off the phone and I feel rubbish, and I'm like, yeah, like I said before, it's like it's a head fuck.
It is a head fuck, because there's this massive internal conflict going on of, I see your behaviour, I know it's not okay, or this might hurt, but I'm not speaking up for myself, I'm not protecting myself, I'm going to protect you from your own behaviour and the accountability for it. And that's the bit I want to understand for you.
Yeah, and that is exactly it. And I'm so aware that is a massive problem for me in so many areas of life. I'm not good at speaking up if I think something's wrong. Or, you know, I went last week and I had a new tattoo done to try and go in for an old one I had, because I didn't have the guts to tell the tattoo artist 10 years ago that I didn't like what she done. You know, that's the sort of thing. Like, I can't. Yeah. I have been very much brought up to not make any trouble.
Don't make a fuss.
Don't make a fuss. That's the name.
Okay, I'm going to pause you. I'm just sorry. I'm just going to interrupt and just go, don't make a fuss. Let's pull that apart for a moment. What do you understand a fuss to be?
Something that draws attention.
Keep going.
that might upset somebody else's point of view.
So draws attention, upsets or contradicts someone else's point of view, or both?
Both.
Okay, upsets or contradicts. I'm writing them down for like. And so what else would we be looking at?
If people pain, like don't make a fuss about pain, physical pain.
Okay, no fussing about pain. Oof. Okay, and then so nothing that draws something. It's something that draws attention. It upsets or contradicts someone else's point of view. What's wrong with upsetting or contradicting someone else's point of view?
I might be wrong.
Okay, so you might be wrong. What if you are wrong?
It's embarrassing.
Why? Why is it embarrassing?
Yeah, the fear that people won't think you're any good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So people won't think you're any good. And then I wonder if there's something as well about, I was just thinking about the tattoo. And I imagine a lot of people can relate to similar stories, like that thing where you go to the hairdressers and you're like, yeah, I love it. And you're in the car crying because you hate everything that they've done to you.
I mean, the hairdresser that's me that is quite a big thing from childhood that was like, I got quite told off for making a fuss about. I really vividly remember it because I hated every minute of it. When I think I was 7, I really liked my hair, basically. I remember really loving the fact that I had nice hair.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was 7, my mum said that me and my sister had to have pixie haircut.
Had to have pixie haircuts. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I said I didn't want that. Now, I have once said this fact to my mum, and she said, no, you asked for that. And I didn't, because I remember when it was done, and I was 7-year-old, and I looked like a little boy at the end of the day. That's what I was like.
Yeah.
And I remember going into school with my hood up and just feeling mortified. And I remember her telling me off because the hairdresser cried. And she said I was being rude and ungrateful.
Oh, wow. Okay, that makes me cross. Poor little you. You loved your hair and she cut it all off.
Yeah. And I do think that a lot of when my dad is dealing like with the whole mum thing and all that, my mum always has to be the best.
Right.
And she was getting her hair cut short. So then my sister had her hair cut short.
Because you couldn't possibly outdo her by having long hair. Okay. Let's just go back to this making a fuss, because I again think this is something people really relate to, and you grow up in these systems, and the reason I'm asking you to pull it apart is because I wonder how you would feel, and be honest, totally honest, if you showed me a swatch of a fabric of some kind, and you said to me, you know, do you love this? Sorry, what do you think of this turquoise fabric? And I said, oh, it's really pretty, but I think I'd probably call that teal more than turquoise. What would you think of me in that moment? And what would you think of yourself in that moment? Wouldn't bother you?
No.
Okay. So then let's go to me showing you the same piece of fabric and I call it teal, and you think to yourself, actually, that's more probably turquoise. Would you say it out loud? Why not?
I think I don't know. It's just, it's literally just ingrained in me that if there's no point.
There's no point. Does it feel threatening to say to challenge me or to disagree with me? Does it feel threatening in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah.
What do you see the threat as, do you think?
I'm not really sure.
It's okay.
I just think that it's that like wanting to not cause a problem
What would happen
and
if
not
you
upset
said it to
anyone.
me? What would you be fearful of happening?
That you'd be cross,
Okay. And if I got cross, what would that then mean?
that you wouldn't want to do the podcast.
Okay. I wouldn't want to do the podcast. So then I would reject you.
Yeah.
And then what would that mean if I reject you?
Being on my own
Okay.
and just having to carry on as it is.
Okay. Not getting what you need.
Yeah.
And in this situation, that is support, understanding, insight, clarity, validation. Do you know, I wrote down, to reject is threat. For you to reject somebody means risk of rejection yourself. What's happening for you right now? Your face has changed quite dramatically.
I find it really hard to explain. I think that's part of the whole
Sure.
problem with it. And that I think that the not making a fuss comes from the need for our appearance as a family always have to be really good, and people have to think a lot of us. And because when I was little,
Yeah.
I was quite feisty, and I didn't like to. I didn't like it when things went what I thought was right. For instance, like my grandmother, she didn't like me because I didn't like how she behaved, and I used to say, and she was really quite nasty, like right. And again, when you tell people that, like, I have to say that about your grandma. But I struggled to go to her funeral. Like yeah, she was horrible to my mum. I didn't like to go around her house and watch her. See horrible to my mum, and she'd always say that this is like when I was about 3, like that I was just really fat and really stupid.
At 3. Well, at all. Full stop, but particularly at 3. Fat and stupid.
I think the turning point for me with the whole thing has been when you've got your own kids and you can see, like,
It's that catalyst.
my kids make us like 24.
Yeah. Right.
And like, it's just normal behaviour.
Right. But if a 3-year-old is standing there and saying, don't call me fat and stupid, I don't like it, why is a parent saying to the child to stop what they're saying and not the adult who is calling the child fat and stupid to stop what they're saying?
I couldn't understand why I was still like that. I think that's the other thing. I was like, why do we go there to then spend the whole car journey on the way back to how horrible she was?
Okay, can I
Right.
hold up a fairly difficult mirror?
Yeah.
You know what I'm going to say, don't you? Because you're repeating the pattern. And I wonder what it feels like to see and notice that.
It's actually really helpful because maybe that's what I needed to realise, to just be like, no, that's enough.
Because this is where I'm coming to, is what is keeping you in relationship? Because I get accused all the time of this thing of like, oh, you just want everyone to go no contact. And it's just not true. I want everyone to do what's happy and right for them. But in this situation, in our conversation, you've yet to show me anything redeeming that keeps you in relationship with them. And I'm really intrigued to know why I mean, you said because then you'd have to explain why, which isn't true. You don't have to. But you feel obliged to because that's what they would demand, which is natural why you feel that obligation, because their demands have always been prioritised. The question, though, for me is, what is keeping you in that relationship?
I don't want to hurt everyone. I think that's
I don't want to hurt anyone. So I'll tolerate all the hurt, all the wounding, so they don't have to be accountable for how they hurt me.
I think I as well can't quite get the term with the intent either.
Okay.
Because I get why she'd like you, like her mum would win.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I realised she didn't have to emulate that. But
Do you?
my dad is better.
Because you.
My dad made it worse.
Okay. But did you hear what you're saying? I get why she's like that, because her mum was worse. But therefore, so in your kind of logic, that means that she kind of gets a pass because she's experienced so much. But surely if you've experienced it, you don't want to do it to your own child. Because why are you sitting here with me today if not to be a more aware, conscious, protective, conscious parent?
Yeah. I think I tried to. They don't spend any time with the kids without me.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to limit time. And I think that's where I tried to get to before this is how do you be boundary setting and all that. But I know, for instance, that she wants to kind of visit for a week. And that's far too long. But if I said to her, you can't come for a week, I think it's too long, she would just book it anyway.
Right, so she would completely ignore your boundary, your request, your need, and do what suits her.
Yeah.
Right. Do you hear that you are desperately trying to manage her feelings, her impact on your children? You're like the wall, the Berlin Wall, essentially. Like you're trying to, I don't know if that's a good analogy, maybe I shouldn't use it, but you're like a wall that's kind of shielding your children from your mother, but there's a door and she can walk in and out whenever she wants. And it's almost like why there's so much energy, and why are you in a relationship with somebody that you have to protect your children from? You won't let them be alone, you're limiting time, but you're still allowing the contact. Because there's clearly an awareness that she's not healthy or safe, but there's another part that feels not entitled to say, no, you don't get to be around my children if you behave that way.
I guess that the younger children,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether they, I mean, to be honest, I don't think they really notice it. They rang their contact really because it's a bad reason. But they hold her in such high regards because she'll send them expensive gifts. And like, I mean, Christmas was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
The past 12 years now, I've been like, please just send one gift.
Mm-hmm.
Her child, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like always the point where they've got more gifts from my mum and her. And what she does now, so I can't triage it out, because she wraps it all in one box. So they've got one practice.
Just listen to yourself for a minute.
No problem.
And did you hear what you just told me? Let me flip it. I just want to make sure you realize I'm not judging you, and I'm not,
No.
there's no, like, I get it. I do really understand why this is so hard. Of course I do. But I want you to hear the absolute audacity of her behavior in that you have made it very clear for the last 12 years that you want one present per child, right?
Mm-hmm.
She has repeatedly overstepped that boundary, ignored it, and on realizing that you're weeding things, has gone all the way around that and put them all into one box, wrapped that box with absolute total intent to disregard your boundary. There is no fucking about there. She knows exactly what she's doing. Right? Valid, fair? Her needs are so important to her that she's willing to completely disregard yours, but also be so sly about that need meeting. And I would also notice to you that the children, she knows exactly what she's doing in terms of the kids being like, presents from granny, and we get whatever we get, and it's amazing, and but I also know, yeah, all right, they like the shiny things. I wonder how long they stay invested in the shiny things, and whether or not your experience shows you that children very often quickly forget about their presence, but do remember the time, the games, the yeah. Can you hear her absolute disregard for you, your boundaries, your parenting, in her need to meet her own desire of giving them, well, to make herself so important to them? She's essentially bribing them. How does it feel to hear me say that? I wonder if there's any part of you looking to defend her.
Yeah, no,
Good.
I don't think I'm looking to defend her. I think I can't quite understand why. I've got a brother and sister as well, and they're okay. Well, I mean, I think they're okay with that side of things. That's never been something that they've minded. But like I never really know when you talk about like roles of sibling. I didn't really know what I was because I didn't think to, like, I mean, I wasn't involved as well as that was my brother.
Right.
But I was the youngest.
Okay.
That's right. And my sister, she like had various health problems as a child, and she does now as an adult as well. So she's always been like wrapped in cotton wool.
Right.
And my job was to just be no trouble.
Okay.
And I remember saying to my mum and dad, I'll never get depressed. I'll never do that. It's ridiculous. But my dad, I remember at my wedding, my dad gave this speech, which I just remember holding onto my husband's hand. I was like, oh my God. This sounds really bad. I love my husband for that. But my wedding was one of the worst days of my life.
Your wedding day was the worst day? Sorry, is that what you said? The worst?
Yeah, it was horrific.
Okay.
I hate weddings. And the whole thing was awful. But my dad's speech was all about basically what on this street and we should have but all in like really long words. So no one understood what you're saying anyway. And then that was it.
So your dad stood up at your wedding and basically slagged you off to everybody?
Yeah.
First of all, I'm sorry. That is a revolting thing to do to you on your wedding day, when it should be about how beautiful you are, how privileged he was to have you as a daughter, how lucky your husband is to marry you, how thrilled he has been to watch you grow and become the person you are. That it was anything other than actual utter sycophancy, quite honestly, and flattery and love and adoration is utterly revolting. And I'm so sorry that he took an opportunity where he should be doing the complete opposite and ridiculed you, humiliated you and shamed you. That's disgusting. Really disgusting.
I mean, to be honest, I don't think anyone probably understood anyway, because that's like what this is all about. But it's just about power and him being the cleverest and most important person in the
You're
room.
minimising right now.
Yeah, I am. And the whole thing was awful. The whole thing was awful. Picking my wedding dress when Love made me cry. Like, because I just wanted to get out of that shop. I hated every minute of it. I can't stand like changing rooms and all that sort of thing. But she was making such a fuss about the whole event and the money and what I looked like that I was I literally just showed the stupid wallet to finally got out of there because I was like, I can't do this. And then they just sat throughout my whole wedding just looking like, I don't know, someone had died basically. When I look back, I'm like, what a waste of time.
Right.
The only thing that I was desperate to do was to get rid of their name. I was just like, I don't want to have that surname.
Excellent reason to get married. I want a different surname. Okay. I mean, I totally get that. I just wonder, well, maybe I'm going to just hold back on that a minute. Isn't it interesting that your mother goes on and on about not causing a fuss and yet causes a huge fuss all the time? Yeah. Right. I am still at a loss, I think, to understand. I think you know where I'm going. To understand why you need to be in relationship. You said, I don't want to hurt people, but I hear you being hurt over and over and over again. I hear you protecting everyone and taking blows for everybody. And I hear you not being seen, not being valued, not being protected, not being shielded. And I mean this as kindly as possible to your husband, but not even by him, you know, and maybe it's not his place to, but him validating you is lovely, but there's a, you know, I'd like to think if I saw my partner being berated by their parent, I would stand up and say, don't do that. You don't speak to someone, and you certainly don't speak to your child in that way, right? I don't know. And you said he's non-confrontational, and I imagine he's got his own stuff going on there. But, a little smile. But you seem to keep taking the flak, and nobody seems to be concerned about what damage that does to you. Fair or not fair?
Yeah, very fair. And I think I know that I have to be the person to advocate with it, and I have to be my own mother. That I find it really upsetting the thought of my mum realising that she's not going to see or hear from her. And first of all, the bombardment that will happen. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that, because like when I tried to go low contact probably about 10 years ago, when we only lived 2 hours away, she'd drive to a house and like leave bags with stuff outside the door and just drive off. And she said like, oh, we might come on holiday up to near you, can we just pop in? Like, you don't just pop in for so, like, I know that I would get a very formal email from my dad. If I don't accept the bribes, basically that will then potentially upset your mother. How could you do this at her age?
Okay. I'm going to do the I think it's Socratic questioning. I didn't know it was a thing until the other day. So you go, say for example, you go no contact. You do you in your mind send them any kind of information like, I really don't, you've done all these things, don't like the way you behave towards me, don't want to hear from you, don't contact me again? Or do you just sort of Homer into the hedge, that meme where he just sort of disappears? So I don't know why that was in my head, but
I wish I could.
okay. Well, you actually you can. There is nothing stopping you doing that. You can just stop engaging, but it's what are you most comfortable doing? And sorry, I should have added, if you're going to go no contact.
I don't think she'd realise. She would assume that all is fine, even if she hadn't heard from me, I don't think. She would just assume all was fine. Or she'll go through my sister as well, something else that she can do. But if I said something to them, I think the thing in my head is not so much her response.
They're still doing stuff that is uncomfortable, invasive, intrusive, which is disrespectful, unkind. I mean, you just said to me you didn't think she would notice that you were no contact. For how long do you think it would take her?
A couple of weeks, I think, because if she's getting contact from other people, so for instance, over the summer, I knew we wouldn't need to worry too much because my nephew was visiting, and so she wouldn't contact during that time.
Okay.
Or if she goes to visit my brother, he lives in the States, so we wouldn't hear from them for probably a month before because she was so anxious about going. And that whole thing didn't take up a good 2 or 3 months.
Right. So that sounds like you're like polyfiller for the gaps.
Yeah, basically.
And we're not sponsored by Polyfiller. Other brands are available. So you're polyfiller. Okay, so let's just play this out. So you stop contacting, stop engaging, and then she makes contact, you don't engage. Then what happens?
She'd keep going.
And then what? You're still not engaging. This is you're not responding in any way, shape, or form. She'll keep going, and then what happens?
She'd get her hump and my dad would be in contact.
She'd get the hump and your dad would be in contact, and then what would he do?
Tell me off.
And then what?
We never got past that.
Okay, but in your mind, what happened?
Probably nothing. What can we do?
Right, what can he do? What can he do?
Mm-hmm.
What are you scared of him doing?
It's really not anymore. Because I was scared of his anger when I was a kid.
So he gets angry with you?
Yeah.
And then my question is actually, so what?
I think it's just drilled into me that I don't want people to be angry with me if I'm not then going to do something to improve it, improve the situation.
So you have to fix it if someone decides they're angry?
Yeah.
So if someone's angry with you for holding them accountable for their behaviour and reacting accordingly, you have to make them feel better about that.
Yeah. I think I've just always been in that position of being the one that had to sort everything and be there for people.
So you're the one who fixes everything, is there for everyone else, takes all the hits. What's happening right now for you emotionally? What are you feeling?
I've never understood, and I feel so self-centered when I play this. I hate like poor old me, but like why did no one like want to do that for me?
Why did no one want to protect you?
Yeah, I don't get it. Like, and it's even still the same. Like as an adult.
If you're scared of rejection, of saying no, have no idea how to trust people, you're not alone, and you don't have to heal alone either. That's what the Hub is for. It's a membership community designed for survivors just like you. Every month, we dive into powerful courses, we hold live calls, and connect in a supportive, understanding space so you can break free from the past and build healthy, fulfilling relationships. Maybe it's time to stop surviving and instead start thriving. Visit jointhehub.ac today using the code POD20 to get £20 off your first month's membership. I can't wait to see you there. Take care. Bye. Okay, so we can do this thing when we grow up in these systems where we get taught that to love our parent is to mind read them, to anticipate their need, to know what it is that we've done without being told what we've done, and that love looks like that. That if they're not centralizing you in their thought process, in everything that they do, not anticipating and just not just knowing what you need, it means that they don't love you or that you don't love your parent, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we can sometimes take that into relationship too. And that if that's happening, and then on top of that, you're not sort of confident or you're nervous to ask for a need to be met because it's always been met with shame or judgment or don't make a fuss or humiliation, or being communicated what a burden you bloody are for asking, you are not going to be stating those needs. So then when he's there offering his jacket, you're thinking, well, you should have offered that to me first. And he's kind of going, yeah, but you didn't say you were cold. And he's right, you're kind of right, because he's your partner. So he should have been like, hey, are you cold too? Do you know, but also he's depending on you to communicate that, right? So a big break, there can be massive fracture in or ruptures in communication because there's this kind of almost expectation of mind reading, prioritizing, etc. Am I on the right track with you for this?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking I'm just waffling down this road and maybe it's not the right one. And it feels like to be loved means that. To really be loved.
Yeah.
Now, if I think about, or if I sort of reflect to you, when we parent children, when they're small, in those first 3 years maybe, what are we doing all the time?
Protecting.
We're prioritizing their needs, we're anticipating their needs, we're mind reading. So we're treating them, we're showing our love to those children the same way that the narcissistic parent demands of us. Harks back to my whole thing about toddlers in adult bodies.
Mm-hmm.
But also, that's kind of like your young self, or you are looking for that parent figure that would have anticipated, mind read, prioritized you too. Do you see? It's a different vibe from your mother, because you're not using it as punishment or shame or control, ideally, but it's a learned narrative that we kind of repeat, and it's a wound because we didn't get it in our infancy.
Okay.
Right? So what I just am noticing is you're saying to me, why has nobody ever done that for me? You're right. Why has nobody ever done it for you? And that wound, and you said to me, I think you said something like, I know I have to mother myself. In fact, I know you said that. I have to mother myself. And that is the sad truth, that it's you that has to anticipate your needs, to mind read for yourself, to prioritize yourself before anyone else will be able to do it anyway. Because to be able to anticipate needs, they have to be spoken, right? So, for example, if it would be your dream, I used to have, this is just sidebar, but I used to have this dream that one day on my birthday, obviously you only get one a year, I would wake up and open my bedroom door and all my presents would be stacked to the top of the door. I mean, I don't know what planet I was on that I was getting that many presents, but this was the fantasy. And I would open this door and there'd be this wall of presents. Now, it may come as no surprise that in my family, material goods were expressions of love, and therefore, if I had a wall of presents, it would mean that I was the most loved or loved at all. And I never communicated that to anybody, and so was therefore disappointed every single birthday. Of course, right? But how would anybody know that's what I want, even as an adult, right? It's not really a fantasy anymore. Part of me is like, oh, maybe it would be quite cool right now as I'm telling it to you. But that's that child part of me wanting to be shown that care, that thought. Because it's not really about the presents, is it? It's about the consideration, the thought of you.
Yeah.
And if your husband is autistic, which from what you've described, he might just have really high traits, but he also might well be, especially given your son has it. The ability to anticipate or mind read is going to be reduced anyway, that cognitive empathy thing. So he'll need that communication to be able to prioritize you. Is this making sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we've come to that realization ourselves, and like I very much, yeah, I think that I know that, even stuff like Christmas, birthdays, whatever, he would like a really, like, you need to tell me exactly. And that's fine. And he doesn't, like, he'll always say to me if I'm not there and he's got to look after the kids for the day or something like that, that it's really helpful to him to have a list of stuff to do, because like it's not patronizing. I really do appreciate knowing what comes next, because I can often get stuck in one particular point, or we end up just not leaving the house and all that sort of thing. We are much better at that than we used to. I think that I probably felt more like that when I was younger, which is, I guess, again, why with the stuff with my mum is I'm like, this is all stuff that I've figured out and I get it.
Mm.
I feel almost petty to be like, oh, okay, then I've like figured it out, so now I can't just accept it and still have them in my life.
I'm confused, sorry, by that. I feel petty because now I've figured it out and I can't just accept it and have them in my life. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So essentially what I think you're telling me is that even though I figured all this out, and I'm going to use the word that we talked about before we started recording and see what it feels like, because it seems like you're saying, I figured out that they're really abusive, but I just have to accept it and I have to keep them in my life.
Yeah, well, when you put it like that, I feel like
that's so unkind to you. I'm laughing along with you, but it's not funny. Why would you feel like an idiot? Was it something I did that made you feel like that?
No, I do. I can hear it. I feel silly though, because it's like, why can't I just do what I need to do, which is what I've learned to do for the last year, which is just go no contact. I don't know how to navigate that with my children. Like I say, the oldest child, she gets the whole situation.
Your oldest child recognises the behaviour. What's her take?
Yeah.
What would she like the relationship to look like?
She's very funny. She's very sarcastic. Because she's like, yeah, she's crazy, but we like the kids.
I mean, good for her for owning it. I mean, right? She's crazy, but we like the gifts.
Yeah.
Which just goes to show that your mother is going, I can buy their compliance with presence. And she knows.
She can't be fully though, because I'd said to her before, would you want to send it? Like, if I knew like, our cousin was going sometimes, I was like, is that something that you want to do for us? She's like, good God, no, absolutely not.
Right.
Please don't tell me that. And I wouldn't ever do that anyway.
No, but she's also telling you, I don't want a relationship. I just want presence.
Yeah. I mean, she's always like, I'm pretty sure she's joking.
There is always an element of truth in jest.
Yeah. Yeah, probably a bit of that.
Why wouldn't she love all those people?
Exactly, yeah.
I'd love it. Like, but here's the thing. There's also something about modeling for her people buying your silence.
And that is something that I do feel very strongly about, because that was what was very much modelled to me with my grandmother.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet,
that's exactly what I don't want to happen.
And yet, with no judgment, but notice that the pattern is repeated. That your mother... Right. Okay. If you had a magic wand and you could flick that wand, you can't change how other people behave. You can only change how you are and what is happening for you in the situation. What would that magic wand, what would you do? What would you wish for?
I wish I had the confidence to try and do what I want to do in all aspects of life. Like I wish that I could feel confident in my thoughts. Mm-hmm. I think a part of me really would like to sit down and say, look at all these things that you're upset with. Mm-hmm. But I know there's no point.
What would you be looking for by doing that?
I don't know. I don't know. That's the thing. There'd be nothing to come of it apart from me just feeling more guilty, probably. And right. Yeah, there'd be something.
There's a really interesting thing that we can do in these situations, which is we look to the person who caused the pain to cure the pain. And it leads us on this wild goose chase, because the person who caused the pain is never going to it's very rare, is going to stand and say, yes, I caused you that pain. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done it. I regret it. And I, will do whatever it is needed to repair it. It happens in healthy relationships, but in relationships where the behavior is this extreme, the chances of her sitting there and go, yeah, you're right, I shouldn't have ignored all these boundaries, and I shouldn't have done this to your hair, and I shouldn't have, done X, Y, Z. The chances of that are so remote. And really what you would be doing potentially is handing her the knife to stab you with even more.
Yeah.
Because really, when we tell people like that how they've hurt us, we give them all our power, because they now know what works, how they can control us better, what they need to do for silence and compliance and obligation. What does that?
I think that's actually feeling a bit lost as well at the moment, because love bombing boyfriend thing, it worked.
Right.
And it hasn't worked. And so last week I spoke for her phone. She said, well, let us know if you need help with anything for next year's holiday. And she was really genuinely quite cross with me.
Because you wouldn't give her away to manipulate you.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the word guilt a moment ago, and it's been sitting in my head the whole time that we've been talking, because it seems like it's the overriding feeling along with fear and obligation. And we talk about that fear, obligation and guilt being the three emotions that are weaponized against you in order to control you. And look here, how dare you book and pay for your own holiday and deprive her of the opportunity to create obligation and guilt. And so she got cross instead of proud. If my child said to me, no, it's cool, I've done it, I've already paid for it, I'd be like, babe, well done, good job. You know, and then I might, if it was appropriate, be like, I've just put 500 quid in your bank for your holiday, just for a bit of cash, spending money. Don't worry about it. Now, that's only if it was appropriate and only if it wasn't creating any obligation or fear or guilt, right?
She said to me, oh, you're so stubborn. I wonder where you get that from.
You're so what, sorry?
Stubborn.
And who was she saying you got it from?
From her. She's saying, oh, you're just like me.
Oh, you're just like me. You're not your own person in any way, shape, or form. Your son's just like your grandfather, his grandfather.
Yeah.
You asked earlier, you mentioned about family roles, and I wanted to give this to you because I think it's really important. You mentioned your sister was quite ill and continues to be quite ill growing up. Sorry, as you grew up and now. Have you heard of glass children?
No.
The siblings of disabled or ill children can often become glass children because they become invisible, they become see-through. It strikes me that, well, I wonder how you relate to the idea of the invisible child.
Yeah. I just think about it. I didn't have a voice.
No, you weren't seen. And no child is in the system, usually. Even the golden child is projected onto. They're not actually seen. It's just the total projection. But your description of not being seen is just this total invisibility. Don't make a fuss. Do not ever state a need. Don't cause work for your mother. Don't incur your father's wrath. Only ever tell your mother how wonderful she is. Never have an opinion that is your own. You're either see-through or a mirror. But the mirror is what she wants to see, not what you are. Yeah. How are you feeling about this situation now?
Sad?
Yeah, it is sad.
I wish, I know you can't go back in time, but I just wish that I could get my younger self to just keep evaporating them. Because it just went, and my mum had this thing about how we all have to have the same, like everything had to be equal. So she wanted me to go to the same store my sister was from to, the secondary school. Mm-hmm. And I remember begging her, saying, please, I don't want to go there. I want to go to the store all my friends are going. And she wouldn't listen. And I can't get why. It's like, it's not even that I couldn't be heard. Well, I wasn't even there.
Yeah, because you learned not to.
Yeah.
Well, look what happens when you speak up now. Don't do this thing. Rant, email. You're a bad human being. You're selfish. You're unkind. You're this, and this. You've upset your mother. Why would you speak up when it was such a threat to your safety? And I'm coming back all the way to the beginning where we talked about rejection being a threat to you. You rejecting other people is a threat to your safety, which is why you're finding it so hard to hold that boundary against them and to reject them. Because do you ever notice, right? Sorry, side quest, not quite, but a little bit. Do you ever notice that when somebody asks you to do something you don't want to do, There's a smile coming across your face, and I want to know what I'm going to stop speaking. What's the thought in your head right this second?
I went to a wedding last weekend that I shouldn't have gone to. Like, I didn't want to go.
Right.
And actually, the friend who was getting married, I was invited like 2 years ago, but it's become quite obvious over the past year that actually that relationship's not it's still a friend, but it's not quite like the closeness. It was about 700 miles journey for a weekend. And basically it got to the weekend and I've got hotel booked. No, I haven't. That's the thing. I've booked flight. So I booked hotel and they managed to find some really pretty rough around the edges accommodation. And train ticket, I booked the long weekend. So again, had to rebook. Like the summer has just been like in school, so holidays. I've just been busy. My mind has not been. I've not been ever focused.
Well, there's also something quite Freudian in that. Like you didn't want to go, and all these.
And I kept getting them, but yeah, exactly. And at one point, I was like, maybe I just shouldn't go. And I spoke to a couple of friends, and they were like, I just wouldn't go. Like, never found like you want to go. Why are you going? And I was like, oh, I feel like I should now. I feel like I should go. And I think that the whole weekend cost me probably about 500 quid to get down there and just attend it.
Oh my God.
Which we don't have just lying around. And I remember when I got on the train to go back to the accommodation, I was like, I actually don't regret this because I know I shouldn't have done this. But now I know I need to listen to myself because it's been ridiculous. And like the person who I was going there to see, when I first saw them, they blanked me. Like it was that. I was like, oh, wait a second.
Oh my God.
So, like I whilst it was a mistake, I'm really glad that I made it. It's a costly mistake because on the first night I was there, I ended up at the theatre by myself because I just passed the theatre. I was walking around the city and whatever, a little jolly, and got like really cheap tickets, literally 10 minutes before it. I felt so empowered. And then the wedding bit was not good, but like I still felt like I did things that I wouldn't have normally done by myself, and it was very, very empowering. So
you met your own needs, Liz.
I did, exactly.
That's all that happened, is you took time to meet your own needs. You went for a walk, you followed your heart instead of prioritizing other people and putting other people first. And you said the word was empowering.
It was really empowering. It felt fantastic.
And I think it's amazing that you're looking at that with that growth rather than shaming yourself for going. And I'm really thrilled that you're seeing that around learning rather than that. And that is the whole point about mistakes. Mistakes aren't bad, right? I think people in our situations that have grown up in these systems fear mistakes so much because they were obviously weaponized and used as evidence that we're useless. And, it's that ridiculous thing of if you're not perfect the way I expect you to be, then you are scum of the earth and deserve all the terrible, terrible things. Whereas actually the truth and the reality is that mistakes are how we learn and grow. And here you are, you've gone on this trip to this wedding, recognized it's a mistake and gone, well, now I know when I don't listen to myself, what can happen, right? Mm-hmm. And it's brilliant that you had the empowerment, but you could have had that like in a city closer to you without spending 500 quid and all the fuckery around trains and planes and automobiles, right? So, okay. I am wondering, as we're kind of getting close to the end of our time together, and I'm wondering, what do we need to answer still?
If I were to go no contact with my parent, do I need to explain that to the children?
The thing I will always offer people is the answer the question in front of you thing. Just answer the one in front of you. Why aren't you speaking to Granny? I just need a bit of space. I didn't like some of the things that she was doing. Okay. And off they go. Or like, what things? Well, I felt like she was ignoring me when I said, don't do this or do that. You know, I didn't like things that she was saying. Okay. And off they go. Or they continue questioning. So but you don't go into the entire story. But what it's really important to notice and validate is validate any feelings that they have. So I don't know with the youngest whether you're going to need to have much of a conversation, but you might actually, if they've pedestaled, because at that age maybe there's some pedestaling, but if they don't have much of a relationship, it may be that they don't even really notice either. You said something at the beginning about maybe them. Realistically, the thing that I think they're going to be most upset about is the presents. And it's an opportunity for you to say, do you know what? I get it. I understand that it was really nice getting all those presents, but that shouldn't mean that we don't say, I don't like it when you do this for me or to me or say this to me or whatever it might be, right? And that you can say, sometimes people use presents as a way of saying, you're not allowed to say those things to me, and that's not okay. If someone gives you something, it should just be because they want to give it to you, not because they're trying to make you be a certain way or be allowed to treat you any way they want to, right? Ultimately, it might be with the older one that you do have the conversation and explain a little bit about the plan to manage expectations, particularly around Christmas. Because then what typically happens in situations like yours is that, yeah, the love bombing increases and the presents increase. They go to the children instead of you. They send flying monkeys. You get the, how could you do this to your mother and all of those things. So for you, and let's prioritize you for a moment, what we need to do is protect you against those attacks. So it's shutting down a conversation if a sibling, for example, is bringing it to your door. It's filtering your email and text messages and WhatsApps, whatever, so that you can only see if you go to look, right? And it might mean blocking numbers and all of those things. It might be communicating to your parents that you don't want to hear from them, and it might not be. But where the children are concerned, answer the question in front of you. But don't fall into the fear, obligation, and guilt around them too. Because that's the danger, right? That pattern playing out. And if there's pushback, it's saying, I understand, validate the feeling, understand. This is a grown-up situation, and I'm sorry that you are part of it. My job as your parent is to protect you from things that you might not comprehend yet because you're not old enough to. And that doesn't mean that I think that you're not clever enough. It's just that as you get older and mature, things change with different lights and understanding of relationships. Make it as simple or as, well, I wouldn't go any further in depth than that. I think that's probably enough. But it's the thing of, you also are not obliged to continue discussing and justifying it to them. So you can say, let's talk about your feelings about it, but I'm not going to continuously explain why I've done it. You look very uncomfortable, and I wonder what's happening.
I'm just really worried about the idea of thing.
You said, sorry, I can't quite hear because
I'm just worried that I'll do
you're worried that you won't have the confidence to hold the boundary.
In my head, I'm literally minimizing the whole thing already. I'm like, oh, for goodness sake.
So your self-gaslighting is really strong, right? So,
yeah,
again, natural. A lot of people will go no contact and then break it and then go back. You know, take a few times before. And so there's no shame or guilt in that either. Because again, it has to be at your pace when you're ready. Just because we're talking about it now doesn't mean that you have to do it today. You might need another year before you can find a place where you're, you know, sometimes it's like the smallest little straw that's like, that's it, I'm done. You know, maybe it's putting for your own brain and your own sense of character and moral that you say to them, these things need to change, or I'm not going to be able to be in a relationship with you anymore. And again, you look sick at the idea of doing that.
I just couldn't do it. I know that I couldn't say that to them.
And then let's look at that. How awful would you feel if your children couldn't come and tell you that you do something that hurts them?
Yeah.
What would that tell you about you as a parent?
I'd never want to be
No.
that parent.
Why would
like, I mean,
why not?
Why
wouldn't you want to be?
I think my kids know that. Well, because I'd never want my kids to feel that they couldn't say something that they wanted to say to me, even if it would upset me.
Right.
And that I would
Right.
hold it against them.
Why not? Why wouldn't you want them to feel that? Right.
Because I love them. And
do you love them and
they're awesome.
Right. And you want them to feel safe with you, and you want them to know that you've got their back and that their feelings and thoughts and needs matter.
Yeah, like that they are their own individual, and that each one of them is so different but so awesome.
Right.
And they should have their opinions of stuff. They should be able to talk to me about stuff.
Can you see the depth, the abyss of a chasm between you and your thinking and your children and your parents and you? There's a part of me wondering whether or not you're stuck in the toxic hope that they might finally get it, that they might be who you need them to be, that your grief for not having had who you needed will be triggered by going no contact. And that might feel scary and overwhelming.
I think that logically I know there is no hope. But it's almost just like the sadness of it is still so sad. And actually, you know, I've done all right. Done all right. So I can feel proud of myself for that. But
you deserve to be loved, Liz. You still deserve it.
Yeah. And I am.
And you don't deserve
I am loved.
You are loved. You are. You know, your parents are not showing you what you need, love.
No.
Is there anything else that I can help you with today?
No, I don't think so.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You know, you can ping me an email if you need questions answered. We're not doing this and then you never hear from me again. You still can talk to me and ask me for clarification or insight around what we've discussed, and I will happily provide it. This is really big, and this is what I mean about this, the process to consider even whether or not to be in contact or not is so painful and grief-stricken and filled with that fear and obligation and guilt, and you're trying to undo all the conditioning. And are so scared at the same time, which is why it's not up to me, it's not up to your husband, it's not up to anybody else whether or not you go no contact, right? That's entirely your choice, and none of us get to decide that for you or judge you for it either way. If you decide to do it, you deserve support in that. If you decide not to do it, you deserve support in that. The only thing I will offer you is being mindful of what you tolerate in order to avoid what. And when it's getting difficult to know and understand and see and all the processing and everything else, it might be easier to imagine someone else experiencing what you're experiencing and feeling what you're feeling, and asking yourself, what would I think about them experiencing it? And one of the things I offer is to write a big list of all the reasons, the pros and the cons, and if you decide to go no contact, to keep that list close at hand, so when that fear, obligation and guilt is overwhelming you, that you can remind yourself, this is why I'm doing this. Because they will be triggered, they will be pulled, because they're protective. They're trying to stop you to get in trouble, but actually they're also asking you to tolerate abuse too. Okay. Are you happy for us to leave it here for now? All right. Liz, thank you so much for coming on, for exploring this with me and being so open and reflective and honest. And it's been really big, and just the invitation is to look after yourself, and you're allowed to be loved, and you're allowed to say, I don't want people in my life who don't want to show me that love or even try to show it to me. Yeah. All right. Well, there we are then. Thank you everyone for listening, and thank you, Liz, again for coming on. And I guess, as ever, all that remains to be said is take care. Bye.